Good morning. Oh, it's good afternoon. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon, Ralo Amogela. Welcome you. We welcome you. We welcome you. Thank you for joining us. We are it's just a few minutes before we start. Dumela Ra.
Okay. Re mama. Okay.
Rema
Kgosi ya ka.
le kae?
Re teng
No, re
morena ka le kae?
siame Ra.
Ra leboha.
Ke lebogela fa o kgone go nna le rona.
That's good. Right. Ke ne ke ithulaganya fela ke setse ntse ke siame
All right, ya leboga. Ke utlwa la Ra.
Right, wa utlwala sentle.
All right, no, le nna ka kwano.
Ke go utlwa.
Ke re le nna ka kwano ke go utlwa sentle Ra.
Ra leboga.
Go ya ka tshupana kwa ka ke go setse metsotso e le mobedi fela pele ga re simolola.
Okay.
So it's just 2 minutes before 1 o'clock.
Okay. No, I'm ready. The headset will be best for me.
Okay, no, but gone ke go utlwa sentle le nna ke tshepa ke utlwala. All right, no, thank you. That is what matters the most.
Yes.
Go setse go le ma sebakanyana re sa bonana.
Go jalo le tona la ka. Re sebaka re sa bui mme kganye ya tlhekefetso yone go godimo thata
Ke bolwetse wa tsatsi le letsatsi.
Ke nnete kgosi ya ka.
Ha ke lebella nako e setse e chaile Re Mashobane tla ke nako ye ke go amogele in our series ya discussion ya rona ya gender-based violence. If our viewers, you remember very well, we've had a conversation like this last year with Mr. Akanyang Mashobane, who will introduce himself. Who is he? Where does he come from? And what does he do? So it's been almost a year since we had this conversation. Yet again, we saw it necessary as Baagi Awareness Project to have this conversation with Mr. Mashobane again, because in the world that we live in, gender-based violence and toxic masculinity continue to thrive, and it proves that it is a pandemic as well. So Re Mashobane, dumela Ra, re a go amogela. O ka ikitsise wa bolela batho ba rona gore o mang, o tswa ko kae, le dira ka eng?
Right, ke go lebogile thata mo tsatsi lena la gompieno le. Nna ka leina ke nna Akanyang Mashobane. Basically, I'm an ex-offender myself. I'm an HR practitioner by profession. Ke activist kgosi ya me. Community builder as well. Mme mo motsotsong o re buang ka one o ke bereka mo Thusanang Trauma Centre as a victim supporter. Role ya ka mo ke leng teng mo ka tiro ke go supporta the victims of gender-based violence, ke go prepare them for court, re ba accommodate gape in terms of if in case ba biditswe mapodisa sa pana dira di investigations ne ra ba accommodate ka for rona ka fana, and then we empower women who've been victims, to be exact. That's my role at Thusanang Trauma Centre.
Okay, thank you very much, Mashobane. It seems that you are doing quite a lot, and indeed that shows your compatriotism and that you are a staunch person who speaks against gender-based violence, even in your life, like you've just said, as an ex-offender. You have took a route about 10 and decided to become instead now the activist. So we thank you very much for that. Without any further ado, Mashobane, our topic, as we have already alluded, it would be gender-based violence and toxic masculinity. So this gender-based violence, it's a persistent pandemic. Now on my own, I could call it a pandemic, and it seems to be something it becomes sparked once in a while, or it's an issue that tends to become a trend, and then after a few months or a few weeks it subsides, and then after that again it erupts and everyone now start to talk about it. And this thing, it's killing our society. And because it's killing our society, we cannot separate toxic masculinity from it, because now I want you to kindly inform our people, what do you do at Thusanang Trauma Centre? I know you have already mentioned a part of it, but I want you to kindly elaborate the type of work that you do at Thusanang Trauma Centre.
Thanks again, Rich. What Thusanang Trauma Centre, basically what we do, our main focus is to empower women. Remember, gender-based violence falls under one of the elements or the streams of social development. Now, the program area focused by victim empowerment program. Now, under this victim empowerment program, we find the sex, the domestic violence, the abuse, the human trafficking, and child negligence. Now, Rona, what we do into this victim empowerment program, we give our victims therapy, we counsel them. First, maybe when a person comes in, what we have to do is to assess a victim and see what the wound or the problem that the victim is coming up with. We give them therapy, we prepare these victims so that they can be ready for court and investigation, because against someone on the line, they will be interrogated on the matters and issues that happen upon them. Now, we prepare them for those kind of emotional scars that they've experienced. Meantime, while we are in the process of that, we accommodate them for a specific period of time. And we also do advocacy work, because we go out and inform people of this dilemma. We encourage people to speak out on the issue of gender-based violence and see the kind of help that the individual needs. And then we recommend or refer if necessary. Basically, that is what we do at Thusanang.
All right, thank you very much, Mashobane. Indeed, you are doing a very sterling job. I cannot applaud you enough about the job that you're doing for the community. In South Africa, we need organizations such as yours, where you just become a safe haven for women and victims and children and victims of abuse entirely. And especially a safe haven for emotions, because if there's something at all that this gender-based violence contributes a lot and dismantles a lot in a human being, it's their emotions. So thank you very much for this emotional support that you bring to this nation and for the healing that you provide from your center. From what you said, Mashobane, I understand that Latusa, but then in the same notion, we people who are outside, it becomes very difficult for us to become a helping hand if resena an organization, or if we are not part of an organization such as either Baagi Awareness Project or Thusanang Trauma Centre. So what do you think the society or everyone who's tuning in now can do in order to be able to combat this consistent pandemic here, gender-based violence and toxic masculinity?
Thanks again, my brother. You see, as you mentioned it, gender-based violence is a very big and gigantic issue which needs a diverse society to engage. I may make an example. We don't need professionals to heal one another. It starts with me and you. The love that I show to you, the respect that I portray when I talk to you, the engagement of one another is very critical and it's key. Now, in terms of individuals who don't have organizations, their role is very simple. Be part of programs, either at church, in society, in your neighborhood. You know somebody's been abusing in your neighborhood. Somewhere along the line, there's a child that is being taken advantage of in front of your eyes. You don't need police to come and arrest those people who are doing that, the perpetrators. It needs you as a neighbor to at least protect this individual. Now, people need to engage in many ways. Sometimes you bring your support. Sometimes we need the resources. Sometimes we need engagement as stakeholders, as part of the clan for voicing out this issue and bringing that strong phenomenon of saying we should bring this thing to a standstill. Yeah. It does not specifically need a bigger picture of organized organizations to engage in stopping ill behavior of individuals.
All right, thank you.
With regard to
thank you very much, Mashobane. I understand that everyone should be willing and it should be upon everyone to be able to just stand against gender-based violence, regardless of your race, color of your skin, origin, your background, as well as your gender. Everyone should just be able to stand firmly against gender-based violence. You need not to have an organized group. You need not to have somebody backing you up. If you have to stand against abuse and gender-based violence and everything that portrays toxic masculinity, you have to stand firm on your ground. Yeah.
Stand firm.
The statistics, our statistics shows that men are more likely to suffer with mental health, and they are more likely to become, they are more perpetrators of gender-based violence. And between you and I believe we are men. This is because women are able to talk about their issues. They are able to talk to each other. They are able to express themselves. And this aids more to us as men in what we call the toxic masculinity. What do you think we can do as men in order to curb this thing of having to bottle things up and later express it in a way that causes harm to the society?
You just put it very well, my brother. Let me first start with this scenario. Ne? Remember, from the olden days, men were understood to be superior. Ne? We had power, we were dominating. Now, that stick and still it's in our mind and our mindset. So things have changed, it has evolved, and as a result of that, we have seen women emerging from all angles in terms of their academic achievements, their financial power, their voices, and so forth. Now, this system, it's like it suppresses us and bottles us up in a corner where we feel now that our dominance is no longer there. And as a result of that, automatically, we start to overjudge ourselves. We don't look into problems according to its own merits. We don't address to issues in a sense that they come to us. We always put specific judgment on the forefront in dealing with issues in the spheres of life. And as a result of that, automatically, this behavior and tendency create a situation where somewhere along the line or somehow we need to, or we wish to bring that force, that power, by virtue of being inconsiderate and unfunctional. Because I'll say so because how now manalena or me manalena mutu. Arile papa ha gona buti and when you are buying cigarette and then or a bottle of beer, ne? Because anger is with me, and really, buti haboyo mutu. Instead of saying, no, ma, I've reserved so much, or I will devise this means. Yeah, you are always having a problem with this, and then always it's me that I have to do what I blast and blast. I don't address the issue. The issue is there's no porridge, but you are still buying beer and a cigarette or something. Nah? Now, my moral of the story, my brother, is that until that we come to a sense of addressing our emotions, our self-emotions, our self-being, is then that we'll be able to transfer this to an outside world, meaning to the next person. I cannot talk to you politely if I don't have peace within myself and the state of, that level. If I'm not in that state, automatically when you start talking to me, I'll blast. That is to show that there's sickness at some stage. There are specific suppressed feelings and emotions and experiences in my subconscious mind, which I did not deal with or which I'm not prepared to first deal with. Automatically, that thing is going to give me a negative response to an outside environment. Now, I become a problem by so doing. Because Myself, I'm sick. Now, it is not going to be correct for us as men to reserve our emotions. Remember, women, when they've got problems or anything that is bothering them, they take it out. They discuss at work, they discuss at churches, they discuss everywhere. Wherever women are, they discuss. Now, that helps them to keep on being on a good level and on a good state, which for us or to us, it disadvantages us because we are bottled up. We have reserved those emotions. So automatically, if we have to express them, we express them by anger or by force. And by so doing, we are creating an environment that is not conducive for everybody.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
All right, I can it's only that I was trying to first unpack and unbreak this thing from the main problem. And on a serious note, we are not going to deal with issues if we cannot deal with the fundamental problems of the issues. That is why we see so much higher rate of gender-based violence and violence within our society. Mainly men being perpetrators of that kind of things. Now, if I can elaborate a little bit more on this, I would say, men, we need to come to a level of engagement as men and boys discussions, teaching our boys from a tender age to show love, to demonstrate love. My boy child, what I always do to him, I always show him, your sisters are your sisters, respect them, but show them love, but be sure of yourself, of your being as a boy. Because I'm trying to show him, he still has power, but his power is not expressed in a harsh way. He needs to engage and get involved in family matters, understanding the position that he must play at his position. Therefore, it comes to kill an issue of power and of masculinity.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mashobane. You have said a mouthful, and I think our viewers and listeners are also hearing how the core root or the deep root of this pandemic, gender-based violence, which is resulted by toxic masculinity. And on the same notion, I'm also interested in there's something that you've mentioned when you started, and every time this conversations or this topic pops up, we cannot omit our culture as Africans. And on the same notion, I want you to tell us, or how best do you think culture can contribute towards curbing and towards resolving this problem, or towards vaccinating this pandemic, gender-based violence, which is resulted by toxic masculinity?
Thank you again, my brother. You know, this one is very vast and very complex and complicated at some stage. But by virtue of the culture when we grew up, there was this, like, it's known, initiation schools, banna baya ko khotleng, bomme baya ko kae, and all that kind of stuff. When you look into the principles and the core of that, was that we were going to be taught of our principles, our human principles, our conduct. Motho wa mme wa go rutiwa bomme, o itshwara yang ha o le ngwana mosetsanyana, ha o bua le batho ba bana mosetsanyana, how are you supposed to be like? your dressing codes, your dressing styles, and so forth. How are you supposed to cook for people at home? As a man or as a boy, you must understand or you must respect the elders. As a boy, and so forth. That thing, was trying to mold our character, was trying to mold our understanding on how to respond to the sphere, the various or different spheres of life. Like we try to break if it's funeral, we knew in funerals, these are the conduct that is expected and how we're supposed to eat. During period of marriage, now saw to your wife. What if you do too? Now, all these rules, cultural rules, was to address issues and was to mold us to be better individuals in terms of the interactions with varieties stakeholders of culture. Remember, la hubina hela na kula sina di koma sina mar hela la hubina le celebrate le enjoy le khopotsa gore le boma as dindunas as the what and so forth. Now if this thing we have to take it in that respect, maybe when we take our boys to initiation schools to teach them of how they're supposed to conduct themselves, how they're supposed to behave in an outside world. Initiation schools and all this other stuff was not teaching people to engage into drugs, was not teaching people to come and bull, like we see now bullying in schools, was not teaching people to come and form gangsterisms, like we see now they form gangsterisms, was not saying to women they should ill-treat men, like now we see it's happening. Now, the main intention and what can culture still do in recapping or molding this is to say, if we go back to our roots, our senses, we'll understand what an uncle cannot have as a woman. Because that we should fight this, which should come against this thing. Remember, by culture, Neritia, Cheha Fela, Yaparayana, Kibu Bumene Batia, Loke, Bamopili, Babatia, somebody there fell off a pill. And then the rest of this. But that thing, in this problem, desire, these people are so out of line. It means we need, when we go back to our roots in terms of the culture, we still need to go and, I will say, to indoctrinate or to enforce, I don't know how, because now you must remember, South Africa is one of the greatest country in terms of their laws, their statutes. Now, if now, we need to go back our like yeah, re tshwanetse re bue re rute batho gore batho ba tlhaloganye gore pitso ha e bitswa mme mogolo ka bona ile mosadi mogolo a dula le one really next door re tshwanetse re ha re go nna bosigo re go tswalla mosadi mogolo re go bona ha re mo mosong bana ba banyana ra mosadi mogolo le tsa jile mabane a go no go tsoga ke setso, that is culture. That is how culture was teaching people and was like treating one another in terms of humanity. And that is when you could see you're telling didn't stay. Because if then the whole man will come and then they will discipline you. As much as the same the same men about discipline. Culture is very important. That is the fundamental core of our livelihood and our being, knowing where we come from and where we are going. So we cannot separate it. It's still important.
Thank you very much, Re Mashobane. From what you've just said, another thing that also aids this virus or this pandemic here, gender-based violence, is blended culture, African culture with Western cultures. We've blended our African cultures with Western and practices and cultures. Therefore, this is affecting our livelihood and our methods of life to the extent that it even wedges or creates a war between us and between amongst ourselves as Black people, as Africans, and as African, especially as African men. It has dismantled the importance of family, the unity of family. And then to our viewers, you are welcome to share any comment or any question that you'd like to be asked in this conversation. Our viewers are welcome to say this, to comment and or text below their questions. Indeed, we have said a mouthful, and we cannot deny that our African culture has been lost. That is why we are running astray from the teachings of our ancestors and the teachings of our elderly. So, Tata Realeboch. Another thing is, again, this, how I don't want to say women, but I want to, there's something that you've mentioned from what you said, that it was normal back then for a lady to run as a para motlase le diaparo tse ne re di apara our traditional clothing in e tlhagisa dikarolo tsa rona tsa mebele, and it was normal. In a something se se bonakare it's tempting. And now that we have blended culture with Western practices and cultures, how do you think this thing is contributing to what, especially from the women's perspective? How do you think women are also contributing to this gender-based violence?
Thanks again for the question. When you remember, I will show you something again. You see, we have a challenge. We've got a very serious economic challenge. Lifestyle has evolved, and things are so expensive. So many things have changed. Now, we need to concur and admit and accept that we are in a very serious dilemma in South Africa, where there's higher rate of unemployment, where there's this tendency of, when supposed to give people opportunities according to requirements, we apply favoritism, and this declines so many people opportunity of getting exposure into economic environment and being stable for that matter. And automatically, people end up now, resorting to unwanted practices as a form of survival. Now, one of those kind of stuff you'll find is to expose yourself by enticing the other part, with your good looks. You understand? And as a result of that, that good looks will pay for you. Now, if I pose on social media with my naked bikini or my short and with specific exposure, so many people will be coming or running after me. But now, that thing, it's still creating a specific thinking and behavior and emotions and feelings to men. Remember, regardless of how strong as an individual and your morals and characters you're supposed to be, you still have certain element of weaknesses which will somehow redirect or direct you to off ramp somewhere. You understand? Now we end up now seeing more men taking advantage of these women in terms of raping them, in terms of buying them specific present and stuff, and with objective of having specific benefits, which now ultimately leads to this high rate of gender-based violence. Because remember, if you agree with somebody for benefits, and then you go to a tavern, you go here for an outing, they buy you something, you enjoy yourself and do all that kind of stuff, and then in return, you pay with the way you pay, and the other day you say somebody has raped you. To the statistics, it rises. That needs to be argued out, that whether somebody was right or wrong, or whether there was intention or not. But then, in terms of the stats, it goes up. In terms of the behavior of what we see as a society for this kind of lifestyle, we see now escalation of gender-based violence. Whereas sometimes this part of these citizens are influenced by specific behavior which sometimes women fail to consider. Now, in so saying, I need to give strong words to women and ladies of saying, you've got the right. They say, in terms of human, what is this? Domestic violence and sexual act and combating trafficking, human trafficking, act of 2013. Women still have their rights because they are human beings. They still have their own rights, and their right is they've got the right to their well-being, how they behave and how they do. But that conduct must be done responsibly, not in a cheating way. I mean, so we are saying to women as well, they must take responsibility, and somehow women must not suppress one another, and they must not contribute by virtue of conduct or a specific lifestyle into this kind of ailments or this kind of behaviors, which is putting our level of humanity to disrespect. Again, maybe the message that I can give to men, we need to learn to love ourselves. We need to learn to understand that by virtue of birth, man was given power, which can never be deprived from him. Adam is the first creation in terms of man, humans, with power, with order, with direction. And then woman was taken as part from him to be a companion, not to be suppressed, not to be overpowered, but that we should be companion, we should be on the same level. But man will always be a head and a leader, regardless that your woman can have power in terms of the level of work, level of income, academic levels, and so forth. That does not matter. But then, if we can understand our roles and our position, then we learn to love these women. We learn to give them what is good so that they can transfer back what is expected. At the end of the day, there will be balance in families, in society, because every one of us will not be inferior at any level. Now, men must learn to protect and outside sources. Your kids are not only your children at home. When you go, you drive through, you see a child going random. Stop, ask, do something about it. If we can learn to take this as a habit, as a way of responsibilities as men.
Yeah, thank you very much.
We should not be intimidated by circumstances and environments. We should learn to understand that we need to be strong and they be key leaders of things.
Yeah, thank you very much, Re Mashobane. You've said a mouthful, and also you've also portrayed a great lesson to both men and women on how to deal with gender-based violence. And to us men, it's I think if there's anyone at all who would say they did not learn from this conversation, it would clearly be unto them. But I've certainly learned a lot, and thank you very much. It's quite an honor to have senior citizens like you to continue to water this plant of healing or to the nation, healing from gender-based violence, transformation, the paradigm shift to goodness, the vaccine to this pandemic of gender-based violence. So thank you very much, Re Mashobane. We have learned a lot, and we have just came to the end of our session. But before we close, I would like you to tell us where can we find your organization or your center? How can each and every one of us who needs help or who have somebody they want to help, where can we find you?
Thank you very much again, Daddy. Thusanang Trauma Centre, you find it on number 67 Lang Street. It's in Lichtenburg, next to Dr. Norwe and Bishop Mokhalakadi. Our number is 018 1100 853. Our cell phone is 079 732 1152. We are also on Facebook. Our email is thusanangtc3@mcemail.com or thusanangtc4@mcemail.com .co.za. We are also on Facebook. We are also planning to open a satellite at Thusanang. But Thusanang, Bisisvlei, Colini, Lichtenburg, and they still accommodate people here. We work with 4 subs from those areas in dealing with these kind of issues. Thanks again for having us.
Okay, thank you very much, Re Mashobane. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the information. We hope that our people have taken your contacts, and we promise to make these details to these details available to our viewers and to the nation. These details of how people can reach you. We pledge as Baagi Awareness Project to make them available to our viewers, our listeners, and to the nation entirely out there, for us to be able to deal vehemently with this pandemic of gender-based violence, which is aided by toxic masculinity. Thank you very much, Mr. Mashobane. Have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Enjoy your weekend.
Oh, God is good. Bless you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.